Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to discuss how to use variables and constants. And these variables and constants consist of Swift language. Now we're going to be using Xcode 8.1, the newest version as of right now. So let's get started by opening Xcode. So now we want to open a new playground, get started with a new playground, and you see it's version 8.1. And I'm going to name this new playground varcon for variable and constants. Well, we'll just name it variable constant, so there won't be no confusion later. Okay, so let me make this my full screen. As a quick note, constants and variables associate a name with a value of a particular type. The value of a constant cannot be changed once it is set, whereas a variable can be set to a different value in the future. So let's get started. This is the first variable that comes with, but I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to create a couple of variables. So var my var. I'm going to make this one an integer. That's what int stands for. And that equals to 5. So that's my first variable. And you see 5 right here. And my second variable, I'm going to put my var 1, another integer, equals to 10. Okay? So now when we call on my var and call on my var2, it's going to give us our two variables that we just created. Okay? Makes sense? So now let me give you another example of, oh, okay, this is my var1. Sorry about that, guys. So now let me give you another example of variables. And it's going to be a boolean. So I'm going to call this variable my bool. And then it's going to be a type of boolean. Now with a boolean, you either get two answers, which is false or true. So let me call my other boolean my bool1. Let me change that to 2. And it's going to be a boolean equals to true. Now the cool thing about boolean is they're mainly used in if statements. They're used perfectly with if statements. So when we get to if statements, I'll give you a couple of examples of those. So let me do what I did in the last one. Let me call the booleans to let you know that it changed the variable name. So now we have our boolean, my bool, false and true. Okay. So another variable that I want to show you is double. Now double is almost similar to an integer. The only difference is it lets you add decimal places to your numerical value. So I'm going to call this as a double, and I'm going to put 1.25. Okay? So I'm going to also call another double, my double 2, and I'm going to set this as a double and set this as 5.0. So that'll give us 5. So if it doesn't have decimal places, it won't use it. But if it does have decimal places, it will use it. So now let's try to create a decimal place with an integer value. So let me call my var2, since I haven't used that. Call it as a double. And let's set it equal to 4.25. And let's see what it gives us. Now let's change this to integer. So it throws us an error. And it says, if you want to change this as an integer, we must add a parentheses. So even if we add a parentheses to our code, it still gives us the whole number 4. So let's say we change this to 99. it'll still give us 4. So this is where you'll properly use the correct format in order to get what you want to see, which is 4.99. So change this to double, remove this. We don't need that since we know it's an integer. And you get 4.99. Okay? So now let's talk about another type of variable, which is a string. So variable, and I'm going to call my string, and I'm going to say it's a type of string, and I'm going to make it equal to, let's say, Thomas. So this shows a type of string variable, which is Thomas. Let me create another variable. So var, I'll name this variable sentence equal to hello, how are you doing today? So you see how it gives us a string variable without adding the string. The string just helps you specify, helps Xcode specify what you're talking about. But if you don't specify it, it'll automatically know what you're talking about. The only times when you really have to define your type of variable is if, for example, you're using a Boolean, a double, or an integer. But right away, it'll know that it is a string. So moving on, let's define a constant now. So when you're defining a constant, you're going to use let instead of var. So let my new var equals to 7.89. So you see it gives us a 7.89, and we didn't have to add integer or double. That's the difference, another difference of a constant. Now, like I said before, if you already have a constant defined, you cannot change that constant. So if I call my new var and set it equal to 8, it's going to give us an error. It's telling us to change let to var in order to make it mutable. Basically letting you know that if you want to make a change to this variable that you called, change this to var. But since we don't want to make a change to this, we're just going to delete that. Now let me show you how to make optional values. What I mean by optional value is, for instance, my string equals to Thomas. If we make it an optional value, it'll be equal to Thomas or something else like nil, which is like nothing. So how you make it an optional value is, first let me show you that if I put my string and we set this equal to nil, it's going to give us an error because right now we didn't specify my string to be optional. To make it optional, all we need to do is add a question mark. The question mark indicates that the value it contains is optional, meaning that it might contain some integer value or it might contain no value at all, or even a string integer for this example. So another optional value is an exclamation point. The only difference from an exclamation point is it's an unwrapped value. Let's leave the question mark. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to convert a string into an integer. We're going to do that by creating a constant. This constant, let's do let my str, which we're referring to as string, equal to 5. Now let's create a my int constant. So let my int, and this is going to be an integer, equal to int parentheses my string. All right, and now let's unwrap this. So now that we unwrapped it, let's see what it gives us. It gives us an integer. So this is how you convert a string into an integer. And we can do the same thing for a double. So let my d and specify it to be a double equal to double, and let's use my var, or let's use my double actually. Close parentheses, and it gives us my double. So that's how you convert an integer to a double and a string to an integer. Now this is it for variables and constants. Please stay tuned for next episodes on Swift Basics. Thank you for watching this video.